Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios. This is episode number 90 of the Knightline podcast, and joining me as always is
Trylko. Hello, everyone.
All right. Well, we had a bit of a football game the other day over in what they call South Florida, I guess. Do they call that South Florida?
A little west.
Over in West Florida, yeah. And it didn't quite turn out the way that we wanted it to. Of course, what was the score there?
48-31.
Yeah,
thanks to a cheap touchdown by the Cows at the end.
I'm not, okay. We'll dive right into that, I guess.
I don't like it.
Who cares? But anyway,
it's classless.
It's running up the score. I mean, we're going to do it. If we had the opportunity to do it to them, I guarantee you we'll do it.
I hope not.
I guarantee you. The Oregon offense, if you ever watched that is a running the score up offense, period. Running it up. That's the main objective of that.
I think we should be better than that.
Okay, well.
I would hope we wouldn't do it.
We shall see when this whole thing comes together.
Gotta win one of these games. And
that's the whole thing. I mean, when the whole thing comes together, you will see what that offense is capable of. I don't think that we've seen it. I don't think we've seen half of what it's capable of this year. And people need to take that into consideration because there's a lot of tension around. There's a lot of people that are, talking about Frost and people are losing faith, and I don't think that's a good thing to lose faith in a guy's first season, trying to bring an incredibly difficult offense in your first year as a head coach to a school that lost all their games the year before. And, give the guy a freaking break. That's all I'm saying. Give the guy a break. Give him a chance to do what he's trying to do. He had half of a recruiting class. And, give him a full couple years of recruiting. It's going to take, I think this is going to take 3 to 4 years to really be what it's supposed to be. And then after that, we can talk about how disappointed you are with Coach Frost.
Not me personally.
Not you personally. Yeah. I'm just looking at you because I am not a hugger. We have said this a million times. We are not hugging anybody. We're not biased like that. We tell you guys how it is more than anybody else tells you how it is. We are the most honest, fan-driven speakers that you can ever imagine. We always tell, we don't sugarcoat anything. I especially don't sugarcoat anything. It's not that bad. We went from 0-12 to 6-6, a lot better than a lot of us thought that we were going to. But I really don't like all these people that are hating on Frost and Milton both.
So I was
Milton
sitting
is an 18-year-old kid, and Frost is a first-year head coach. There's a lot. They have a lot in common, the both of them. And it's not easy to do either one of the things that were done this year by either one of them. And I think that they deserve a little bit more credit from our fans than what our fans, not the most part of our fans, but some of our fans are giving them. Period.
So don't hold back today.
I'm not. And that is my rant. I wanted to get it out of the way from the beginning. There it is. Like it or not.
Well, I was sitting in the stands over there in Tampa and was not glued to social media, so I didn't have my finger on the pulse of this and message boards like you did during the game. And so when I dialed up Rabble.tv and started listening to the post-game live show with you hosting, and then called in to talk with you, I was actually surprised that the conversations were going in that direction, because I hadn't been, I wasn't on all of that during the game. I was just watching the game. So I was kind of surprised that there was this meltdown going on.
Well, the meltdown started before that, actually. The meltdown has been building.
It's been building to it.
And I actually had the question right in front of me, have you lost faith in Scott Frost? I did ask that question, and I wanted to get that discussion going because I wanted to hear actual reasons why people think that they've lost faith in Scott Frost. I wanted to have actual reasons, and I haven't heard anything that makes any sense so far.
Unrealistic expectations.
Absolutely.
Come on. 0-12 to 6-6.
What do you want?
What do
you want from this?
Okay, let's fire him. Who do you want now?
Yeah.
I mean, is anything going to please that group of people? And I think you did say something earlier, and I know you're fired up about this, but I don't know that those folks speak for the entire fan base, right? It's a couple of people that are louder than most on message boards, but every fan base has this group of people.
And it's fine to do that. It's fine to give your opinion, but just try to be educated with your opinion. Try to at least have something to back that up with, and to look at the entire picture. That's all I want people to do, is look at the entire picture of what has happened here and make educated discussion.
Yeah, prepping for the show, I pulled up this stat. Top 10 most improved scoring offenses in 2016. UCF number 4, 16.2 points more. Behind Wyoming was the number 1. Wyoming is having a good bowl year, so they turned things around. Missouri, Louisville, UCF, Washington, Pittsburgh, Penn State, Old Dominion, Colorado, and the Cows. So UCF 4th in most improved scoring offense in 2016. As it turns out, UCF finishes 6-6 overall with a bowl game to go. 4-4 in the American, 3-3 on the road, 3-3 at home. Pretty balanced 500 team coming off of the 0-12. I think it's a fan tendency to want what's behind door number 2. And I don't know who else they want right now at quarterback. We'll see. There are other people coming in. We've been talking about this for weeks. There are going to be other recruits.
Absolutely. And to have any more of an expectation than what actually happened this year is almost ridiculous. To have any more of an expectation. To be picking on the little things. Look at the big picture of where we came from last year to this year. Forget about everything before last year. Forget about it. It's the past. It's the history, yes. It is history. But for this conversation about Scott Frost, forget about anything before last year. And look at where we came from the end of last year, I guess, to the end of this year. Look where we've come.
Well, by no means do I like comparing UCF to that Tampa school. But in Willie Taggart's first year, they went 2-10. And they just completed a 10-2 season, and they have some pretty talented players in Quentin Flowers,
Absolutely.
and Mack, the running back, and the wide receiver.
Yeah.
And they've got some talented players. And UCF made some mistakes in this game, some turnovers, but you see that across football. You saw it with Ohio State, Michigan, head-to-head at the same time. Turnovers change games.
We were never going to win this game.
And in
we
fact,
were never going to win this game.
UCF didn't win one game this year, in which it would have to play up and over its potential, and it beat everybody that it was expected to beat.
I understand how important this game is to the fan base. I totally 100% understand that. And don't get me wrong by saying we were never going to win this game. Not that I didn't want us to win this game. Of course I wanted us to win this game. But on paper, if you look at everything, we were never going to win the game. I said a couple of weeks ago, we're not going to win Tulsa, and we're not going to win the Cows.
Good thing we got the bowl eligibility after beating Tulane and Cincinnati.
I'm not just blowing my horn by saying that I predicted that, because, it's not hard to figure out. If you look at everything, something miraculous would have had to happen to win either one of those games.
All right, this rant aside, what did you like that you saw?
Not a lot. I didn't.
Not a lot?
Are you talking about the game?
The game. Not the season. The game.
I liked the pass by Peyton, the 72-yard touchdown pass.
May have been the best pass of the day.
Yeah, that was incredible. I actually liked a couple things that Milton did. He made a couple passes that needed a little touch on them, and, he's got touch versus everybody wants to talk about Justin Holman, too. That's the other thing. How much better Justin Holman? Oh, put Holman in. Holman should have been in. I guarantee you, if Holman was doing that much better in practice than Mackenzie Milton was, Holman would have been in there a little bit faster.
Well, but now you're touching on something that is a bone of contention for many, in that they feel head coach Scott Frost has been too stubborn in looking forward, looking to the future, and giving guys a lot of reps. And I think we're never going to know the answer on that, but it is an interesting question. I don't believe in a fiber of my being that Scott Frost doesn't want to win a rivalry game, doesn't want to beat any of the teams. We've seen too much emotion from him. He doesn't want to lose, but there's that balance between can you win with a Justin Holman coming in off the bench as a relief pitcher versus giving guys reps and giving them meaningful game experience? And, he has taken them to a bowl, and he's got the 6 wins off of the 0, and he's given a lot of guys playing time and minutes that are going to be beneficial next season and beyond.
I think there's a fine line with coaches between being ultra-conservative and winning the game sometimes and winning the program. You know what I'm saying?
A long game. He's playing a long game.
Yeah, he's playing the long game. He's also being conservative in his what he says to people, but he's not at all conservative on the field. He's not. With the things that he does, onside kicks in the middle of the second quarter, not in a spot where you would ever do an onside kick. Going for it on 4th down, faking field goals, faking punts, doing a double reverse pass. None of that stuff is conservative, but I believe he is playing a conservative long game, excellent analogy there, or wording for that, with the entire program. And I think the entire program and the future of the program and what he wants to build here is the important part. And I think that that's what we should look forward to, and that's what he's looking forward to. He knows all the pieces of the puzzle are not here yet, as in players. He knows all the pieces of the puzzle haven't been shown to the players that we do have, that they may not be capable of doing it. If you watch Oregon, and this is the Oregon offense, you have not seen half of what they do. Half of the crazy scoring and stuff like that, because number one, a bunch of people talked to me about this yesterday. The offensive line that we have cannot handle this offense. It can't.
The offense has had to make do with that square peg in the round hole.
Absolutely. And he's done a heck of a job with what we have to get where we are. That's it. That's all I'm saying.
Would a 7th win have changed the fact that this team needs to recruit better, faster, quicker offensive linemen? Would an 8th win have changed that equation?
Absolutely not.
Would any number of wins have changed the fact that they need improvement on the offensive line?
No.
Okay. Have we been talking about this for a while now?
Yes. And these are all things that take time. It's just got to take time. Look how long it takes programs to be built and offenses installed and defenses installed. Our defense, obviously Coach Chenander is awesome.
A finalist for Top Assistant Coach of the Year, known as the Broyles Award.
And I said yesterday, I hope that he is here next year, because he would be the very first one that anybody plucks off.
Oh, he'll get some calls.
Absolutely.
He'll get some calls. Well, the war on I-4, that is what they call the rivalry, the trophy, which the Cows players paraded around Raymond James Stadium. They get to keep that for a year. There is a season-long competition for all sports, and that now is tied at 15 points apiece. So you've got basketball and softball, baseball, and the like ahead to decide who gets the bragging rights for the year.
They say that there's a similar trophy for that as for the football game.
Yeah, let's see if we can get that one.
We'll get that trophy back. Did you look at that trophy and see all the little spaces there are for games?
We'll get it back.
It's only the first one for that trophy.
That's right.
It's only the first one. There will be many more. And let's hear what Scott Frost had to say. A couple things that I picked out that he had to say about the game yesterday. And
USF has a really good football team. We had our chances against a good football team and potentially top 25 football team. You can't give them any breaks. We needed the breaks to go our way. When you give them a touchdown on a fumble and you have a chance to recover an onside kick, you can't do those things and expect to beat a really good team. Not yet. Someday we'll have this script flipped and we'll be the good team, and teams are going to need breaks against us. Right now, we needed to make those things happen, and they went through. I don't want anybody to hang their head. This is a team that has been through a lot. I'm so proud of them, so happy for them. I hate losing as much as anyone. This team hates it. We're competitive. But what this team has accomplished is pretty special. And I don't want them to hang their head. I'm just looking forward to going to a bowl game and sending our seniors out on a good note. The season's been taxing. We're not deep enough to rotate enough guys yet. The guys that we're leaning on are playing a lot of snaps. Some of them are wearing down. We lost some key guys. Some other guys are nicked up. That's football. There'll be a day we have more depth and we can rotate a lot more. I saw Jordan Johnson walk into the locker room after the game, a freshman that's played all year for us, and he looks like he needs to sleep for about a month. Those guys are fighters, and I'm so proud of them, but we're leaning on them pretty heavily.
Can we talk about a couple of things out of those sound bites that
Absolutely.
I think are really interesting?
Absolutely.
And we talk about that with former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel coming up, because I asked him what it means at this point in the season for these freshmen, for their legs, for their stamina. And he hit on that they don't have the depth that they're driving these freshmen into the ground. He alludes to the fact that he's got a player that looks like he needs to sleep for a couple of weeks to recoup from the football season. I think that's really very important what he said there. And he talked about depth, right? He talked about depth. We've been talking about the need for another recruiting class. And that, by the way, is not going to be the be-all, end-all either, that one more recruiting class.
Absolutely not. I'm saying 2 to 3 years, maybe even 4 years, for it to really become his team and have what he needs here to do it.
And I think we may be, at this point, spending a little bit too much time on the naysayers. But he said something else. We were in that game with Maryland. Should have won. We were in that game with Temple. Should have won. We had Houston. They ended up with a couple of league losses. Still a pretty talented team, right?
Yep.
We were in these games, not playing the best football possible, right? It was 14-14 with Tulsa at the halftime. This is a talented South Florida team. I don't like them at all, but they have now climbed into the top 25, and I think a little late recognition for the American, and that Navy is in there now, and South Florida, and really Temple should be as the Eastern Division champions, back-to-back, right, Temple?
The American is getting, that's another thing. We can talk about it another time, but the American's getting the short end of the freaking stick here.
So for these naysayers who don't like anything, apparently, we were in these games, right? I mean, the Michigan game, that got away from us, but there were moments in that game that were
last
really
week they
decent.
were ranked number 2.
Yeah, there were really decent performances. Yeah. I just think it's some cranks on the message board. I think it's a little bit of meltdown, post-game meltdown, and nobody likes to lose, and nobody wants to lose to Tampa. And I think we are better than we were last year after a 44-3 loss and an embarrassment to Tampa in our stadium. That was a more competitive game, more enjoyable game to be there and watch, or to watch on TV or listen or what have you. It was just a more enjoyable football game to experience.
Go back and look at some of the scores of the USF games for the other opponents that they played, and we played them a lot harder and a lot closer than some of the other ones did. I mean,
did we make mistakes?
Absolutely.
Yes. Were those turnovers horrible?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
But they were favored. They are 10-2. They have talented players. This is something we get into with Kyle as well, talking about the Quentin Flowers and the Max of the world. These are players that he's developed over a couple of years in charge of that program. I got this
one last clip that I want to play from Scott Frost, because I think that this was the most important thing that he said in all of the interviews that he did yesterday.
I don't care as much about the record as watching our team improve and get better and come together. I think the encouraging thing for us is we weren't in a lot of games last year as a program. This year there hasn't been one team in our league that we haven't been in the game battling with. If we can do that year one, I really believe in a couple years, in another year, in another 2 years, in another 3 years, I think we're going to be able to catch these people and pass them. And I'm looking forward to leading this program for as long as that takes.
For as long as it takes. That's what he said. That's what we need to do. Right there, he was asking everybody to give him a chance to make this entire thing work. Give him a chance.
I'm on board.
I know. It bugs me. It really bugs me that people are calling for his head already. I mean, it's absolutely crazy to do that.
We were a year ago at this time breaking down a 44-3 loss. We're talking about which bowl game we're going to go to. All right? Yeah. I mean, that's a big difference in a year.
Absolutely.
It's been, I got to tell you, for me, I hope for the listeners who we get a lot of praise from for having conversations like fans do, it's been a lot more enjoyable to come to the 1148 studios to talk about a win.
Absolutely.
And I want there to be more wins.
And we personally have had a great, as a podcast, as a as Knightline have had the most spectacular year. I've been looking back through the data and all that stuff and these surveys and all that stuff, and it is absolutely awesome. I thank every single one of you for listening. Still, please tell your friends and all that stuff, but our statistics and everything else has
through the roof
skyrocketed, and
see, that's how
I greatly appreciate it. I just, I rant like this sometimes because I want to tell it like it is, and I want...
You will not be silenced.
I will not be silenced.
You will not go quietly.
Right. Anyway.
Well, we got Kyle coming up, and we're going to talk about what it means to get 15 more practices in preparation for a bowl game. As we go to record, we're not going to have answers for some days this week, I imagine, but there are bowl projections out everywhere. SB Nation, UCF versus Ohio in the Miami Beach Bowl. That, by the way, is on a Monday at 2:30 p.m. The ESPN owns that game. It's on before Monday Night Football, so that's why they do it. Be a good destination for the kids and all of that, but at the Marlins Baseball Stadium. Orlando Sentinel has UCF versus Idaho in the Cure Bowl in Orlando. That, by the way, on a Saturday night, December 17th. Much more convenient for fans. CBSSports.com has UCF versus South Alabama in the Cure Bowl. I have a friend who went to South Alabama. I've already been trash talking in advance of that, and he might come down from Alabama to go to that game if it happens.
I'm pulling for the Cure Bowl. I think it would be an incredible thing for UCF to be in the Cure Bowl in Orlando. It would be like another home game, like I've said before, in their former home. It's meant to be, and I really hope that it goes that direction. We'll see.
Well, we're going to know bowl bids are formally announced December 4th. That's a week from as we record now on a Sunday. But you'll see announcements leaked during the week for various bowls. And perhaps we will know UCF's destination sooner that we can react to on social media and the like, and be in a position to talk about that and start breaking down the matchup of who we're going to be playing in that bowl game. You mentioned earlier best month ever in terms of listenership, and just keeps going up, and we've had that survey out there. I think it's so instructive for us what people say to us, the things that they like and that we know we're hitting right on, and the things that they want to see us work more on. So if you haven't had a chance to fill out that survey, please do so. We would appreciate that. They can find
on our
that.
website, www.UCFNightlinePodcast.com. It's on Twitter, right at the top of our page on there. It's on Facebook, I think, at the top of our page on there. Yeah. It's very important to us to hear your comments, and to, the rest of it I don't really care. There's a lot of demographic stuff in there. I don't really care too much about that stuff, but
give us the comments. Here's one.
The comments and the rating as far as like what you like, what you don't like, where you watch it, all that stuff. That stuff is hugely important to us, because it kind of forces me to post things differently and all that stuff. So
here was one of the ones that we got that was positive. It's great to listen to, and it provides me my fix. I like that. Until the next UCF game, I really love Kyle's insight from a former athlete's perspective. I think it's extremely valuable. The opposing team interviews are also nice. This one made me laugh. It helps with betting.
Yeah, well,
I had no idea that we were contributing to that. And the new intern is great, too. I guess Jason, the intern, been off for Thanksgiving holiday with family.
He says he will be back next week, so we shall see.
And then here's an area of improvement. There aren't enough episodes throughout the week, but I think we all understood the time commitment this stuff takes for y'all. There is a great deal of time commitment on both of our ends. And, by the way, we have real lives and real jobs.
Yeah, and I've been trying to put more stuff out during the week. I've been, we were holding that insider, segment and putting that out during the week.
You had a good interview earlier in the week.
Stuff out, yeah.
With a new recruit.
Yeah.
Otis
Anderson,
running back.
Otis Anderson, coming from Jacksonville. He is almost a mirror image of Adrian Killens.
I like when you asked him about his times in a race.
Yeah, those guys are both extremely fast. I mean, I really think that Otis Anderson has something, though, that Adrian Killens does not have. And I think it's that little stutter step.
Oh yeah, you showed me his film.
Shuffle thing that he has that I don't think Adrian really has yet. maybe he can develop that. But I think it really, honestly, it comes natural to players to be able to do that.
Could have used that Saturday against South
Storm
Florida.
Johnson had that, and that was one of the things that made Storm a valuable player. And
during his time here.
Yeah, and I don't know where he's quite at in the NFL scope of things at this point.
Bit.
Yeah, he's bounced around.
I think
but that guy could
Tampa
start
Bay.
and stop on a dime and switch directions, and that was his biggest asset, absolutely. And this dude does that, and so check that out. It's still out there
on all the regular channels for it.
It's everywhere, so you can find that.
Well, very good. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll have Kyle Israel join us to break down the game. Plus, continued winning for UCF men's and women's basketball teams. 2 new coaches, off to a great start.
There are so many ways to connect with Knightline. You can like us on Facebook at Knightline Podcast, or follow us on Twitter at UCF_Knightline. Check out our website at www.ucfnightlinepodcast.com for recruit spotlights, archived episodes, and more. Or, of course, you can always call us at 407-401-9184. That's 407-401-9184. Listen whenever and wherever you are on YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, or tune in. Go Knights and charge on!
Welcome to Inside the Huddle with former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel, brought to you by the Little Greek Fresh Grill. Fresh, flavorful, fabulous. Waterford Lakes, 855 North Althea Trail, Orlando.
Let's look at the latest game through the eyes of former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel, who's stopping by Knightline to talk about the Cows game. And Kyle, I remember something Coach George O'Leary would say often, that a game often changes on 5 to 6 particular plays or moments, and there were a couple of turnovers in this game that proved to be a big difference.
Turnovers obviously were big yesterday, especially in some crucial parts of the game. I think you also just got to look at the fact that, Quentin Flowers and Marlon Mack, they made a lot of those 5 or 6 plays as well. I mean, those guys are 2 phenomenal athletes, and I think that it shows you when a guy like Willie Taggart finally has, some time. I believe that those guys are his recruits, or at the very beginning. But he's had 4 years now, and you can see what happens when a coach has some time with the program to develop athletes and develop players. I mean, South Florida is a very talented football team and made more of those 5 to 6 big plays.
Speaking of that, speaking of a coach having some time with a team and time to recruit and things like that, there's quite a few people this week that are kind of down on Coach Frost after this whole thing. It's going to get a lot better, and I don't think people are keeping that in hindsight, that it's going to get better. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that it's okay to have frustration. I think there are times throughout the course of the season that you could scratch your head at some decisions. That's all part of the game. I mean, we have a staff who I think has done an incredible job turning this program around, has motivated players better than I've really seen done before, considering there was an 0-12 team that you became the coach of and then turned the mindset around. I mean, he's done such a great job with the culture and changing the culture of the football program. I mean, if you just watch football on Saturdays and make your evaluation or your opinion of our program based on what you see in those 3 or 4 hours, then you're not giving that staff the credit that they deserve with everything that they've done to change the culture with our program. And, that's where it starts. And we've been benefactors of 6 wins and a bowl game appearance. And, every coach is going to get questioned. Jim Harbaugh gets questioned. I mean, the best in the business get second-guessed all the time, and that's okay. That's part of the job, and I'm sure Coach Frost would tell you that. But, there's going to be improvement. He's the first time as a head coach, and that's going to improve as well. So I'm happy with where we're at. Frustrated at times, sure. At the end of the day, very happy where we are right now.
A friend of mine, John, asked me a question that he wanted me to ask you. There's been a great deal of talk both in football and basketball about the improvement of UCF from a strength and conditioning standpoint. And John wanted to know, can a good strength and conditioning program and coach really translate into wins and losses on the field? And then the follow-up to that is, what would you expect in the offseason where it pertains from strength and conditioning for Mackenzie Milton?
Well, I can tell you that a bad strength and conditioning program will lose you games for sure if you're not staying at the levels that these athletes are training at. This day and age, a strength and conditioning program is crucial, and that's one of the things I think when you look at Coach O'Leary's time here, I think some of the methods that they used were a little bit outdated in the latter years of the program, maybe the last 2 or 3. But for those first 8, 9, or 10, I mean, we were one of the strongest football teams in the country. We had some players that weren't the highest level of recruits, but a bunch of 2-star guys that came in here and got after it in the weight room. And I think that Ed Ellis and Scott Sinclair, Scott Sinclair is the head strength coach at Georgia, so he's no slouch. Neither of them are. They did a really good job to help us build the program in that regard, because that was such a crucial, successful area for us at the beginning of Coach O'Leary's time here. I think that what they're doing now, and then adding the diet into it and watching what these kids are eating and putting in their bodies, there was nobody telling me what I should be eating. There was nobody there to even make me take a protein shake. I mean, that just didn't exist before. So now we're really thinking about what these players are eating and really educating them for the rest of their lives in regards to how to take care of their bodies, not just for the 4 or 5 years that they're playing. So I think it's crucial, and I think this offseason, when it comes down to, I know you mentioned one name, I know you mentioned Mackenzie. Did you ask about somebody else?
No, specifically Mackenzie. There's so much talk about arm strength and his height and weight, and I'm just wondering what the offseason holds for him from a strength and conditioning standpoint, and how maybe 10 to 15 pounds of muscle could really help improve his game.
I don't know him personally, and I don't know his body makeup. You know, I don't see him every day in that regard. I can tell you that he's going to have to get stronger with his legs. I think that he's still going to have to work on his speed. Mackenzie's very, very quick in small spaces, but I think when it comes to all-out speed, we saw a couple long runs this year, but he's going to want to work on that as well. It was clearly obvious yesterday on one of those plays where Mackenzie tried to sprint around the left edge, kind of a design run, and South Florida said, no, that's not going to happen. Like, just completely much faster than Mackenzie was. So I think in his legs, because a lot of that arm strength is going to come from there, a lot of that improvement in strength. I know I was squatting 520 pounds. I still hold the quarterback record when I was at UCF, maybe 505. But I know that a lot of my strength and improvement came from building a great foundation with my legs. And I think that Mackenzie's going to need to start there and then figure out how to add some pounds to his frame, both in the shoulder areas and in his arms. But, you know, a lot of that is going to come down to mechanics. I think when you look at Mackenzie's arm strength and his improving, those type of things, we're going to have to go back to the podcast from last week where I said he was recovering an injury from his senior year in high school, and I think that this is a good time for him to really focus on improving that throwing motion. That's almost more important in my mind than him putting so much weight on.
You're talking about legs there. A typical high school football player's season will have ended by about now, right? And what does it mean for his legs and just stamina? He's got to be tired at this point as a true freshman.
Extremely tired. I'm sure he's exhausted. I do think that they staff and the way that they run practices really helps in the ways that these guys are conditioned. But, you know, I thought yesterday, we've seen so many fumbles this year, and I started to wonder if the lack of contact in practice is leading to the amount of fumbles that we've had this year. So I don't know if it's a catch-22. Yes, it keeps us fresh, but is it actually hurting in other phases of the game? That's kind of an interesting question, especially with the fumbles. I think that he's probably pretty worn out at this point in time, and he's very happy that he's got some weeks here before the first bowl game, or before the bowl game.
Where do they go from here with Mackenzie? What do they start working on, like, immediately when the season is done, when the bowl game is over? You've seen what they do, and, you know, you have to start working on certain things. Where do you start?
Mentally. I go back and I watch the season and see what I can improve first and foremost in the film room. You know, decision-making, understanding what you were seeing. Obviously, understanding that first allows you to play quicker and faster. A lot of what he can do to improve himself physically can start in the film room, because once you understand what you're doing, you can play, obviously, at a quicker speed and make quicker, faster, better decisions, and allow him to, maybe if he's not going to have the strongest arm in the world, be able to anticipate passes and throwing lanes better. and where he wants to deliver the football. So I would start immediately in the offseason, regrouping, going back throughout the course of the season, and evaluating him on film. And then I would go from there and pick out the 3 or 5 main objectives that he wants to improve on throughout the course of the year. And I'm not saying this is how it was done when I was at UCF. I'm just saying how I would do it if I was a coach. What are my 3 to 5 main things that I need to improve on based off of what I just watched on film? I need to work on arm strength. I need to work on delivering the football down the field with velocity. I need to work on accuracy. I need to work on my pocket presence. And I need to work on my ability to throw the ball while on the run. Let's just say it's those 5 things. Then make a plan. All right, how am I going to do this? Get with the strength and conditioning staff. How are we going to, get his base and core stronger? How are we going to improve his back strength so that he can get the velocity down the field? A lot of that comes from your back and how you rotate the hips. And I would just build that program that way and then use that all the way through the beginning of the winter and into spring practice, and then kind of reevaluate after spring practice going into summer to work out and keep working on it that way.
Trace mentioned earlier, he mentioned weight, and, we know that McKenzie's not going to really probably get much taller. Usually when you're in college, you're pretty much done growing. When I played college football and I put on, say, 5 pounds or whatever, those 5 pounds I noticed when I got to a certain point, even with muscle, I started to slow down quite a bit. I guess you have to find your fine line of where you're fast and where you feel fast and where, all that stuff. How do you do that as a player?
I was a guy that was on the opposite end of the equation. I was a guy that always had a problem keeping weight off. And for me, I knew that fine line was 225 pounds. If I was above 225 pounds, I just didn't play as comfortable, or I wasn't at peak physical condition. And I felt like 225, and George Godsey, who's now the offensive coordinator of the Houston Texans, we both decided, all right, 225 is where I need to stay at. Now, because my weight fluctuated so much, it was a challenge, but I weighed in every Wednesday morning for 4 straight years. Anytime that I was over 225, I had to go run 2 miles in under 13 minutes. If I didn't make that, I had to then immediately run another 2 miles under 21 minutes, which was obviously easy to make at that point. But I only weighed over 225 twice in 4 years because I knew how crucial it was that I stayed at that weight. And I think that when you're on the upper end of it, it plays a huge role. Now, in McKenzie's case, I don't think 5 or 10 pounds in McKenzie is going to slow him down very much. I don't think 5 to 10 pounds is going to do anything but help him when you're on the light end gaining more weight. He's nowhere in a ballpark where I think he should be concerned about putting on too much at this point in time.
The Cows get their trophy. They get the win in the rivalry game. They get the bragging rights. What does it mean for recruiting, though, for UCF to lose this game, especially on that I-4 corridor and across the state of Florida in a head-to-head battle? Scott Frost and Willie Taggart, whether he stays or whoever assumes the program. What does it mean in the recruiting war?
I don't think this loss means much. I think maybe in 5 or 6 years, if these coaching staffs are still intact in both of their UCF and South Florida, it may mean more down the road when we're both more potential serious contenders, or coaching staffs are really understanding how you have to recruit against South Florida or South Florida recruiting against UCF. I think that comes with time. For now, I don't think the impact or the loss for UCF means a ton because USF was so heavily favored, in my opinion. They were the better team, better record. I don't know that it made a huge difference.
Do you do anything different getting ready for a bowl game than you do for any other regular game? What's the bowl week like for kids these days?
Well, yeah, you don't do a whole lot. I mean, it's obviously different because the bowl games that we played in, they were either on Christmas Day or I believe on December 30th, the one that I played in the Liberty Bowl, or the 31st. But you're obviously on campus. It's like kind of being back in camp again. You get 15 practices. It's like an extra spring practice, basically. A lot of times you're done with school, done with finals by that time, and you're really just focused on football. I think it benefits the younger players on a team more than it benefits anybody else because there's so many extra reps in there for guys that didn't get on the field this season or that were redshirting or whatever the case may be. There are so many opportunities for those guys to get better, and I think the coaches are providing an opportunity to evaluate the talent that they have, especially going into the last 6 weeks of recruiting. You really get a good idea of where your football team is at, who you have coming back, and really where your maybe last 4 or 5 scholarships need to go as far as depth on your team. I think it does a lot for the coaching staff more than it does for players, but it's still a great experience for the younger guys, and the older guys just want to get through it, honestly, in my opinion.
Back to this rivalry game, announced attendance 36,056 at Raymond James. I make you the athletic director of UCF tomorrow. Do you move that game off of Thanksgiving weekend to earlier in the year, or do you let it build some steam at that point in the season as the last game?
You know, if Florida and Florida State didn't play on the same day, I'd say I like the weekend. If there are just so many good football games that day, when you look at the Ohio State-Michigan, when you look at Alabama-Auburn, even Mississippi State-Ole Miss, I mean, there's just so many big-time games happening around the country that, you know, may take a fan who's on the fence about going to a rivalry game like UCF-USF and take them to a bar to watch the other games and be able to see that game. So I like the idea of it being on another weekend. I would prefer it be on another weekend myself. But, you know, I just think it's such a competitive day for viewership with all the other games that are going on that are big-time games, especially the way this season has unfolded. You know, I myself, who because of family being in town, didn't get to make the trip over there yesterday, was going back and forth between Ohio State and Michigan and UCF and South Florida. I mean, just natural. I would put it on another weekend. Just
thinking that if it were the first conference game there at the end of September, early October next year in Orlando, good chance that's a sellout, where if it's Thanksgiving weekend, it may be a tougher ticket.
I think that's a good point. The one thing that I do like about the idea of it being so late is kind of what we did see with Michigan and Ohio State. As long as we're in the same conference as South Florida, I think in years to come it could be even a more exciting game. Imagine if UCF had beat Temple in some of those other games and that game came down to, you know, had any type of conference implications. I mean, that makes it a really exciting game, and you're only going to know that in the latter part of the season. So there's benefits on that side for the hype around the game down the road. But this year, obviously, you know, there are a lot of other factors in regards to USF getting into an AAC championship. But if we were both kind of there, I think that game would be obviously more exciting.
Getting into the really busy time for the holidays for you guys, getting all those holiday parties and all that going. What's going on at the Little Greek this week?
I want everybody to remember that we've had a lot of people that didn't realize that you could call and order food ahead here. You know, our phone number is 407-745-5501. And you can call ahead, place your order, and we'll have it ready for you in 10 to 15 minutes. So if there's anybody out there that's driving in East Orlando or driving home from work and just wants to have food that they can, you know, run in, pick it up, and run out, then calling ahead and doing a takeout order is a way that we can really help you do that. And that's at 407-745-5501.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much again for the whole season of your expertise, and we look forward to doing it again. And hopefully we will talk to you after this bowl game, and hopefully we can talk about a win in that bowl game.
Yes.
You know, and put a good cap on the end of the season. There's a lot of recruiting to do. There's a lot of exciting things coming for UCF football.
A lot of exciting things. I'm certainly excited. Obviously, that's a game yesterday that we would have wanted to win, and I think that I displayed in the podcast last week how excited I am about the program, so I won't revisit that. But I am cautiously optimistic about the future and the direction that we're going, and I'm interested to see what this recruiting class holds. And the one thing that I can say is many people are talking about whether Justin Holman should play or why did he stick with McKenzie, and they're throwing some pretty good arguable stat lines out there that make you scratch your head and say, I wonder why. But one thing I do know is that these freshman quarterbacks that come in next year really need to be guys that can push McKenzie right away. I don't think that there's anybody in the quarterback room right now that's going to do that. Who knows where Pete DeNova or Tyler Harris will be, when everything kind of settles down in the offseason if they stay at UCF or decide to go somewhere else. But we really need those freshman quarterbacks to come in here and really, really push McKenzie to make him better, because I think competition at that position is ultimately going to make our program go in the right direction. And so those signees at that position are going to be crucial for our success in the future.
Thank you very much, Kyle. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, guys.
Hello, Knight Nation. This is Tim Baker with East Coast Paddle, owner, operator, and fellow UCF alum. East Coast Paddle is located in Orlando's favorite beach town of New Smyrna Beach. East Coast Paddle is rated by TripAdvisor as the #1 rated water tour activity in New Smyrna. We are most known for our boat-assisted paddleboard eco tours. This is a 2-hour dock-to-dock experience like none other on the island. You'll paddle with manatees, dolphins, and have a chance to see many of the 4,000 species that inhabit our lagoon system. So take professional pictures throughout the tour that are sent directly to your email at no additional charge. This is not all we have to offer. Traditional paddleboard rentals delivered to your location, paddle fit classes, and several fishing options. Please reach out to us at 386-402-8585 or visit us at our website, eastcoastpaddle.com, or follow us on Facebook at East Coast Paddle or Instagram at EastCPSUP.
Now, back to Knightline with Andrew and Trace.
All right, so you just heard from Tim there from East Coast Paddle. He's giving away a boat-assisted paddleboard eco tour for two, $110 value, as part of his support for the Knightline podcast. Enter to win that at UCFNightlinePodcast.com. Go on to the left side there, and there is a contest entry form. We will give that away after the bowl game on our
Spectacular.
Knightline.
Is that what you're calling it?
End of the season spectacular of some kind. I don't know. It's just the word.
You
I
like
thought
that
it was
word.
funny. So
You like that word. So we don't ask for much, so we're asking for three things. Enter for the paddle board, fill out the survey, and tell a different person to listen to the Knightline podcast.
Absolutely.
Those are three things.
Tell
That's all we're
somebody
asking.
that you haven't told before.
Yeah.
That's it's very simple.
All we're asking for.
That's all.
All right, so big weekend in the
Is that
American.
a lot to ask for?
I don't think. I think
Okay.
those three things. No, I don't think so.
Okay, good.
That's why we just asked. No, I don't think so.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I interrupted you. Go
Big
ahead.
weekend in the American. How about Tom Herman leaving Houston
Shocker.
as head coach?
Shocker.
Yeah.
He said after the game the other. Oh, well, what are you talking about? There's nothing. You know, what are you talking about? Like, don't.
He was
listen-
very indignant
Don't
in that
listen
interview,
to
wasn't
the
he?
media.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Yeah, it took a big payday, but it goes out a loser as Memphis outscored Houston. Pretty entertaining post-Thanksgiving Day game, 48-44. How about Navy, by the way, is in this title game as the Western Division champion. They beat SMU 75-31. There were 3 games over the weekend.
That's crazy.
With 70-plus points scored.
It's crazy.
Syracuse lost to Pittsburgh, and Syracuse scored 61 points. This was not at overtime.
I think next year we get to play Navy too.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah. Temple won the East, 37-10 over East Carolina. It sets up the American Championship game. Temple at Navy, noon, this coming Saturday, December 3 on ABC. Should be a very good game. Tulsa had an exciting 40-37 win over Cincinnati in overtime. Tulane rolled over UConn 38-13. So as it all shakes out, Temple wins the East with that mark of 7-1. Same record as the Cows, but they lost to Temple. So
Yeah.
Temple gets the nod,
What a
and we
job.
helped out on that.
What a job
inadvertently.
that guy has done, Matt Rule there
Yeah.
in Temple. I mean,
Yeah, of all places.
Yeah,
Right.
had a few years to do it though, right?
Yeah, they didn't
Few years
didn't
to
pull
do
the
it.
plug after 1
Yep.
year on them.
There we go.
UCF finishes 4-4 in the East. East Carolina, Cincinnati, UConn bring up the rear 1-7. Bad marks for all three. In the West, as mentioned, Navy 7-1, Tulsa 6-2, Memphis and Houston finished 5-3, SMU 3-5, Tulane finally won a game. They are 1-7. So, prediction?
I think Navy's going to do it.
I think Navy too.
And I think Navy. I mean, I don't know about a score. I mean, I don't know. I think it's going to be an offensive battle. But I think Navy will win that. That's a potent offense. That's a strange offense that they run there. That triple crazy option thing where they have like 20 people in the backfield. No, you can't do that. But they have 4 at least in the backfield. A quarterback and like 3 running backs, and
It's interesting to watch.
Very interesting.
And they lost their quarterback last year, and they just reload. And I think they were a great addition to the American.
I'm surprised with that crazy offense that they can't even get ranked up there a little bit higher with
that's a disrespect thing for the group of 5 schools.
It is. I'm surprised that they don't do even better, and actually, honestly, I'm surprised they don't play for like even national championships with that kind of crazy offense.
Well, we'll
Just 'cause
see.
it's
Western
insane.
Michigan is in the MAC title game. They're favored by almost 3 touchdowns. If they win, they're probably the group of 5 into that Access Bowl. But if Western Michigan stumbles, Navy or Temple, maybe they're in the position to go and be that slot. We'll see.
Hey, there's another sport.
Is there?
At UCF.
Other than football.
Yeah, other than football. Basketball, men's basketball is having already it's early in the season, but man, is it ever night and day compared to what it has been in the past.
KNIGHT.
Absolutely.
Night and day.
Yeah. They're 4-1 right now, and they just won yesterday 67-51 over Seattle. Who is a college, I guess, Seattle. I don't know if that's...
Do you know their nickname?
It's not the...
Buy you a beverage if you know their nickname.
Redhawks.
Ooh! There you go.
I read this.
All right,
it's amazing.
I will buy you a Coca-Cola.
It's amazing. I read... they're not the Sounders or the
Seahawks.
The Seahawks or who's the basketball team from up there?
The old Supersonics.
Supersonics.
Not anymore.
That's what I was gonna say.
Not anymore.
I couldn't remember what it was.
Yeah,
anyway.
But no, basketball is off to a great start. As a week ago when we were recording, they were going to play Villanova in the title game of that Charleston Classic, and they held their own.
Absolutely held their own. I was saying that I was talking about that on the football post-game show yesterday a little bit. I'm like, all right, if you don't want to talk about football, let's talk about basketball, because think about this. When was the last time or any time that UCF played a national champion from the year before number 1? And was able to stay within 10 points of them, and
they were pretty competitive throughout that game.
Absolutely.
As my buddy Jim's dad, Ed, said to me during the game, I drove back. I caught you on Knightline live and driving back from Tampa and made it in time for the basketball game. He said to me, "Remember when we would yell at the team to move around? We're not doing that now because they are moving around and they're playing defense and they play all out. He still doesn't have depth, and there's some guys out there that you would not expect to see and that it may be difficult during conference play, but they're moving around, and he has set a higher bar of what he expects from these players."
I am a firm believer in Johnny Dawkins. I think, it's very amazing what he's doing. So he's using Taco Fall, the way that he's supposed to be used. I've said this before. The kid is a absolute, looking for a word here, he's like the eighth wonder of the world almost. I mean, he's he's not Andre the Giant, but he's the ninth wonder of the world, because Andre the Giant, if you're ever a wrestling fan, was the eighth wonder of the world. Yes, they called him. So
I did not know that.
Taco now has been given the ninth wonder of the world
by you.
Tallest
Is
basketball
that how you're going to hashtag
player.
it? That's your new hashtag?
It is. Sorry to say. There was
hashtag?
A couple of people that didn't like all my hashtags. Well, that's the new one. Ninth wonder of the world.
It just happened organically.
Absolutely.
Right here. A year from now, coming out of Thanksgiving, will be a pretty interesting tournament coming to Orlando next year. The Knights are part of an 8-team field out at ESPN's Wide World of Sports, November 23, 24, 26. That field includes, listen to this now, UCF, Long Beach State, Marist, Missouri, Nebraska, Oregon State, St. John's, and West Virginia.
There's some basketball schools in there.
Huh?
I mean, West Virginia, St. John's, Nebraska is all right in basketball. I don't know about Oregon State.
That's some pretty good talent coming to Orlando, and that UCF will be a part of that tournament. Yeah, they on again, off again have been out at that Disney thing that they've called it different things in different years, the old Milk Classic. And
well, now they're back in it.
They're back in it.
That's cool.
Taking a look at your Knightline planner for the week ahead. Men's basketball's home this Wednesday, November 30th, CFE Arena. First tip with Stetson, the hated Hatters from DeLand at 7 o'clock. Then UCF will hit the road December 3 at 1 o'clock at UMass. Women's basketball, the opposite. They hit the road December 1 at Buffalo before returning home on December 4 for a 2 p.m. game with Bethune-Cookman at CFE Arena.
All right, it is Sunday while we're recording this, and we're watching my Chiefs, my beloved Chiefs, on the TV here in the 1148 studios, and they're playing the Broncos at 0-0, but what happened with our Knights in the NFL this
We
week?
actually had a good day across the NFL. Rashad Perriman only had one catch Sunday, but that was good enough for a touchdown, 14 yards as the Ravens beat Cincinnati. Good old reliable. If you watched on Thanksgiving, kicker Matt Prater split the uprights on Thanksgiving Day.
I did watch that.
Time expired, leading Detroit to the 16-13 win over Minnesota. As we were starting to record, I saw Latavius Murray had scored a touchdown as well. Overall, pretty good day for our Knights. We've got one Knight right now playing in the Grey Cup, the CFL's version of the Super Bowl. Remember Smokin' Joe Burnett, former UCF defensive back? He plays for Calgary in that matchup today against Ottawa.
Is that tonight?
It's on right now.
Okay,
it's on right now.
We should. I'm going to switch one of these screens over to that then.
And then quarterback Blake Bortles threw for 2 touchdowns, led the Jags in rushing, which should tell you everything you need to know right there, that he led the Jags in rushing.
Yeah.
Not good enough. And FoxSports.com out with an article this evening. Headline, I posted on the message boards, the Jaguars have to start thinking about moving on from Blake Bortles. Bortles' future in Jacksonville should be in serious doubt. And then they break down why he needs to go.
I hate to see that happening to Blake. I hate to see it, but it's not Blake's fault. It's the organization of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
2-9 now.
Period.
2-9.
It is not Blake's fault.
All right, so the article by this columnist, he misfired on a couple of deep passes, overthrowing his receivers by a good amount. More importantly, and worrisome, his throwing motion is still as bad as it was when his team completely fell off a few weeks back. Bortles inexplicably brings the ball down towards his hip when he gears up to throw, making it not only difficult to throw with accuracy, but making it easier for defenders to knock the ball out of his hands. And it goes on and on and on. Time for him to go, or new start?
I would be more than happy if he would go and play for another team. In fact, my Kansas City Chiefs will take him any day because we have a good offensive line and we have a good supporting cast and a good system and a good coach and a group of coaches and all that. That's what Blake Bortles needs to be surrounded by. He does not need to be surrounded by the cesspool that Jacksonville, the entire organization is. Period. That's it.
So
it's not Blake Bortles' fault.
Can a good quarterback win there?
Can
a quarterback struggling win with a better team?
No quarterback can win there.
One of the names mentioned in this article is maybe Tony Romo ends up in Jacksonville.
Oh, please.
Does he make them a better team?
That's fine. It's a good place for him to go off into the pasture because that's what Tony Romo is going to do anyway. I mean, it's time for him to go and retire, and obviously because he keeps getting hurt, and his career is in its end very quickly.
I can't imagine Tony Romo surviving with the Jags' offensive line.
That'd be great. I implore them to grab Tony Romo up and start him instead of Blake and see how good they do. I would love that. But trade Blake off to a team that has the surrounding cast that Blake could play with.
But
it's
it comes
not
with
Blake's fault.
It comes with the position, right? And it comes with the salary and the top draft pick type of thing.
Absolutely.
He's going to take the scrutiny and the heat. But it would seem right they're going to be going in a new direction with the head coach.
What have they done with the rest of their draft picks that they've had since him? I mean, you got to look.
Bradley, they're 14-42 now. I think it is.
Again, look at the big picture and look to see what has happened. Look at the big picture. It's not Blake's fault. Anyway, on to news and notes. And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports. Women's basketball keeps rolling, beating Austin Peay 61-43 on Sunday. Saturday, the Knights beat Ryder 49-30. That followed a win at Butler midweek. UCF is 6-1.
6-1 for the ladies, 4-1 for the guys.
Wow.
10-2 overall.
Turnarounds all around.
Volleyball swept Houston to finish its season on a high note, making up for a 3-1 loss Wednesday at Tulane. UCF finishes 13-7 in the American, 23-10 overall.
And finally, not really UCF Knights, but welcome back Golden Knights. No, not UCF's old nickname, rather NHL's newest expansion team, the Las Vegas Golden Knights. And their logo is hideous.
No, you don't like it?
I don't like it.
It was funny when it broke, though, the other night, and everybody was talking about the old Golden Knights.
Absolutely hideous. It's not a good night. Anyway. All right, that's going to do it. This has been episode 90 of the Knightline podcast. I'm Andrew Phegley.
I'm Trace Trylko. Go Knights.
Charge on.
UCF, charge on to the field. With our spirits, we'll never yield. Black and gold charge right through the line. Victory is our cry. BSCTO or Y. Tonight our Knights will shine.